Howdy y'all, thank you for joining us today for this solo playthrough of the Jubilee Marvel Champions the Card Game Hero Pack. This is where I take the deck unchanged. I just sleeved it up here, and I've already shuffled a little bit, but we'll do some shuffles on camera just to make sure. But basically I sleeved up this deck, and we're going to go solo and see how the deck works straight out of this box, and see if it can hold its own against the villain. So the villain set that we're going to be going up against will be the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse up here. And we've already done this on a couple of other videos, so let's see how Jubilee can handle them. Other changes that were made, so normally with the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, it has the Dystopian Nightmare and the Hounds mixed in. What I decided to do different with this one is, since the Jubilee Precon came with the arcade encounter set there, is I replaced the Hounds with arcade. So basically Dystopian Nightmare and arcade could show up. If you haven't watched one of these before, I do kind of like a small teach through the first round, basically, just so that if this is someone's first video and they're interested to see, because they love Jubilee, if they're interested in playing, they can at least follow along through the video. But it's just a one round short little teach about the basics, and then anything else that we just pop up throughout the video. Alright, so we gave this a few shuffles. I already put the obligation and the standard cards in here also. Alright, so there's that deck ready to go. And then just to show here, it says put those out randomly, which I mixed them up and just kind of put them out in that order. And then the 4 Horsemen cards, standard, and 2 modular sets, Dystopian Nightmare and Hounds. Like I said, I've replaced Hounds with arcade. And then we have the setup, shuffle the 4 Horsemen villains and reveal them in a row, which I did, from left to right. Place the active counter on the leftmost villain. Oh yeah, the inactive counter. We'll use my little doggo counter here as the active counter. And it says, place the active counter on the leftmost villain, so it is on death. So death is going to be the first active villain. Each player reveals a random side scheme from the 4 Horsemen encounter set. So we're looking for a random side scheme from the 4 Horsemen encounter set, which we saw a side scheme, but not the 4 Horsemen one. There we go. So this is going to go into play. A Time of Famine. It's going to get 6 threat put on it. And until we get rid of it, it's going to be accelerating the scheme. And then the player who defeated this scheme discards the top 10 cards of their deck. So, alright, so we're going to reshuffle that. Put this into play with 6 threat on it. We'll just put it over this. Alright. Then we flip this over. As a forced response, after a villain activates, move the active counter to the next villain. So that's basically the way this works. He's going to activate, and then once he activates, the counter will move over there, and that'll be the next one to activate, and so forth and so forth. If they get 12 threat on here per player, so since we're soloing this, they get 12 threat on here, they win. It starts with 0 threat on it, and it gets +1 threat at the beginning of each of the villain phases. So right now it has none on there. And that's set up. We got the 10 hit points for... Oh, I put 10 hit points on each of them. Ah, they each have 9. I almost did not look at that. I'm glad I just double looked. It lets you know how many hit points per player right there. And basically, the way this is going to work is I can attack any of the villains I want to. All 4 of them are villains. But they don't actually KO until I have all of them knocked out. So I'm going to have all these hit points knocked off before I win. Now, their special ability only activates if they actually have hit points. So knocking out of, or taking them down to 0 at least makes it where they're not as dangerous. So that's what we're going to be doing. And we win if we knock all 4 of them out. We lose if they get the 12th threat on here per player. So if they get 12th threat on this main scheme, we lose. And then we also lose if they manage to knock me out, which I start with 9 hit points. And I got my setup there. And then we got to draw our cards, and we get a hand size of 6. So give this a few more shuffles. All right, that should be good enough. All right, we draw 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and put a disclaimer out on this. I mean, I looked it up all night just to make sure I was right before I did this. But it's going to be on the wild resource, because like in the case of like something like this, when you play this card, it says for each different resource type you use to pay for this card, choose a scheme and remove 2 threat from it. Got that. But in the case of something like this, where it's a wild resource I'm paying for it, according to the rules reference, when a player generates a wild resource, they must specify which resource type they are generating with it. So it's basically if it's paying for a cost. And the way I interpret it, and the way most of online interprets it, is basically it has to say, it's saying that because it's only looking for printed cost. This isn't looking for printed cost. This is saying how much I spent. So in the case like this one, it's a 3 cost, and I spend these 2 cards for it. This one is 2 wilds, so I can choose it as 2 different of these. If I'm interpreting that wrong, then this whole playthrough is going to be void, because I'm going to mess it up. But that's the way I interpret it, only because it doesn't look at the printed cost, and it is saying I'm using it as part of the payment, which in the rules says it is a payment. So I know that's a large sidetrack, but that's just the way I'm interpreting. So I'm putting it up here right now. That way, if you don't interpret that way, you're not going to be happy with this video and you're going to move on. But that's the way I'm going to look at it. All right. So back to the regular part of the playthrough. So the way we do this is there's a round where it's going to be the players phase when all the players go. And then we go to the villain phase, and they do all their stuff, and that's one whole round. The player phase begins whoever has the first player marker, which I'm solo, so I'm the only one who has the first player marker. And I get to do my actions and play cards and do everything I want to do until I do not want to or cannot do anything anymore. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I have an action here. The action is just to do it, and the action tells me I can, as an action, search my deck for the shopping spree player side scheme and put it into play. Limit once per phase, so we're in hero phase. So I'm going to go ahead and go do that. Let me go dig through the deck and go get the shopping spree card. All right, reshuffle the deck here real fast. I'll edit out the shuffles. All right, that should be well more than enough shuffles. Gave it about 30 or 40 good shuffles there. All right, deck reshuffled, ready to go. And we're going to put this into play. So, shopping spree goes into play here. And what this is a player side scheme. Normally, putting side schemes into play are a bad thing. The player side schemes usually give you something good. But then you got to find a way to get the threat off of them. Like in the case of this one, when we defeat it, we'll be able to search our deck and discard pile for any item card and put it into play. The problem is, threat cannot be removed from this scheme by heroes or allies. And it's got to be an alter ego action. Remember how we just done that action? Well, it means we have to be in alter ego form and do it as an action while in alter ego form. And we can exhaust our identity to remove 1 threat from here. Any player may trigger this ability. So we're putting that into play. It comes with 2 threat on it. And we're just doing it because if we end up finding a way to do it, we'll get rid of that. All right, another thing you can do for your turn is once per round, basically, or once per phase, you can choose during the hero phase to switch forms from alter ego to hero or vice versa. And you can do that for free once. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to switch to my hero form, and what that does is change my basic abilities and give me a new ability, which I have here as a resource. I can exhaust Jubilee to generate a wild resource if I wanted to. What that also changes is my now max hand size is 5, which only matters at the end of the hero phase, and the hit points are going to stay the same. So the next thing I want to do is I want to play a card, and the way I'll do that is, if you'll notice at the top of all these cards, they have a little number on it. That is how many resources it costs to play the card. And the way you pay the resources is on the bottom of every card are the resources that they create. And you just discard the card to pay the resources to do that. For instance, I want to bring out Jubilee's sunglasses. It cost me 2 resources. So I'm going to discard these 2 resources, these 2 cards, and that gives me the resources to put this into play. This is an upgrade item. It gives me +1 attack, so now my attack is +1, so it's a 2 over here. And as a hero response, after I play an attack event, which I'm sure we'll do later, I get to exhaust these and choose an enemy and deal 1 damage to that enemy for each different resource type used to pay for that event. So it can be pretty good if I get some other stuff into play, or some other events that I get to pull off. But there we go. Next, I'm going to play another card, and it's going to be this one, which is a 3 cost. I'm going to discard these, and this is a resource card, which means it's just only used for resources, and it has a special thing that says double the number of resources this card generates while paying for a justice card. This card I'm playing is a justice card, so it counts as 2 of the resources, and I have an energy one here, and I have a wild, 2 wilds. So back to, since I am paying for this card with those, I can choose to spend those wilds as whatever I want, as 2 of resources. So I'm going to use it as for the other 2 resources, and that pays for the card. And it means that for each different resource type I use to pay, and since it's wild, I used it to pay for this card, I choose a scheme and remove 2 threat from it. So since I paid 3 different types of resources, I get to remove 2 threat from 3 target schemes. Now, the way I interpret that, it did not say it had to be different. It just said for each different resource. It did not say I have to choose a different scheme. So I'm going to choose this scheme, remove 2 from it. Then the second time I'm going to choose this scheme, remove 2 from it. And then third time I'm going to choose this scheme and remove the last 2 threat from it. So that removes all the threat from this scheme. And unlike the main scheme, when you remove all the threat, oh, sorry, I didn't realize I took that off camera. Unlike the main scheme, when I remove all the threat, the main scheme won't go away, but this one will. And it says, when defeated, the player who defeated this scheme discards the top 10 cards of their deck. So I have to discard the top 10 cards of my deck. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Boo, I saw some good cards get discarded there. Alright, so next, you can also choose to do what's called a basic action. The basic actions are the things that are here to the left. We have thwart, attack, and defend. If I want, I could choose to exhaust Jubilee to do one of these basic actions. So if I want to, I can exhaust her to thwart a scheme for this number, which we just saw. I thwarted a scheme with an event, so I could go remove one threat from a scheme. But the only one that's over here that has threat cannot be done by a hero or an ally. This is a hero, so I cannot do that. See, that's the reason I have to give you that alter ego form ability. But anyways, or I can attack someone for this number. Remember, I have the +1 attack right now. Or if somebody's attacking me, I can exhaust Jubilee to reduce the attack by this number, of amount of damage I take. I'm showing in the alter ego also, one of the other basic abilities is to recover, where I could exhaust her in alter ego form to recover this many hit points up to my max, which is already 9. I'm already at my max, and I'm not in alter ego form, so I can't do that. But that's how basic actions work. And while I'm actually going to do this one, I'm going to exhaust Jubilee to attack for 1+1 for 2 damage. I have 4 targets to choose from here. And like I said, I want to get them down to 0 in order for their abilities not to work. So, I mean, attacking Death for 2 right now ain't going to matter. He's going to get to do his ability. And having no cards in hand, I can't guarantee I'm going to draw enough to do enough damage to do damage to Pestilence before that happens on the turn after. So we're going to go ahead and attack Famine. Actually, I don't mind Famine's ability so much. I mean, yeah, it's bad, but I have an upgrade in play, and I don't want to lose it. Remember, Jubilee Sunglasses is an upgrade. And that's what War does. War, if he gets an attack through, he's going to get rid of my upgrade. I don't want to do that. So just in case, we're going to go ahead and start whittling down War here. So he takes 2 damage, taking him to 7. With that, I have no cards in hand. I have no other actions that I want to or can trigger. So that would be the end of my turn in the hero phase. And then once all the players have taken their turn, we go to the end of the hero phase, which is now all players can discard any cards they want to from their hand. I have no cards in hand, so I have none to discard. And then once they discard, they're going to draw up to their max hand size, which remember was 6 when I was in alter ego form, but now it is 5 with Jubilee in hero form. So I'm going to draw 5 new cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. After you've drawn up, you ready and unexhaust all your cards. And that is the end of the hero phase, which is going to take us to the villain phase. Alright, the first step of the villain phase is they're going to accelerate the scheme, which means we look here, it says to accelerate the scheme by +1 per player. So it's going to add 1 threat on there per player. Next, we're going to go the villain, and all minions engaged with a player is going to activate against them. So in the case of the villain would activate against every player, and then the minions would be any that are engaged with that player would activate after the villain. So what the activation of the villain is the villain is going to look and see on each player what form they are in, and that's going to determine how the villain activates. So if the player is in alter ego form, the villain will scheme and add this much threat to the main scheme. If the hero they're activating against is in hero form, then they will attack, and that's when the hero would have to choose whether they want to defend or not, and that's how much damage they would do, plus a boost card, and we'll get into that because I'm sure I'll get attacked. Well, getting attacked right now, because when we look over, we are in hero form, so that means the villain will activate and attack me. Now's when I have to choose to defend. Now remember, the problem with defending is, if I defend, I said I have to exhaust myself to do that. But remember, I don't ready or unexhaust my character unless I have something that does that automatically or have a way to do it. I don't do that till the end of my hero phase, which means I won't be able to do the attack or thwart from the basic action on my next turn. Since I'm at full hit points, I'm going to choose to go ahead and not defend. So the villain is going to attack me. for 2, and then they get what's called a boost card. They deal the person a boost card to their boost stack. In this case, I don't have any other cards in my boost stack. And then we reveal them, and we're going to ignore all the card. All we're looking at is just the bottom here. And for every one of those symbols that look like that on the bottom, they're going to get an additional plus to their attack. So in this case, he attacked me for 2 damage plus 2. So he attacked me for 4 damage. There is another symbol that could be there. We'll see if it comes up, but I don't have an example of it right now in hand or in the discard. But I'm sure we'll see it later. So I did not defend, so I have to take 4 damage. Taking me to 5. Now remember, death, I told you they all do something special when they attack and they have hit points. In this case, it's got the little asterisk there, lets us know it's a forced response that after death attacks me, which he just did, if he has at least 1 hit point, he does, he deals 1 damage to each character I control. I only control 1 character at the moment, so I got to take another damage. Ugh, that was a big hit. Now remember, we have a forced response here that after a villain activates, move the active counter to the next villain. So that means death is now activated and pestilence becomes the new villain. Now, we go back to that other confusing thing I said, is that if there's any minions that are engaged with me, which normally they'd be over here in your player, they're engaged with you. I just like to keep a bad guy area, but we don't have any minions, so they would activate. They just don't get boost card to do that. They just do whatever their numbers say. We don't have any minions, so with that, we go to the encounter step. With the encounter step, we deal each player an encounter card into their encounter stack. If they have some there, they add to there, and this is when they would have to activate all of their cards. In this case, we had none. We just have the one we just dealt, so we are dealt this one. And we have to, when revealed, the villain schemes. So Pestilence is now going to scheme. And remember, normally I'd only be able to scheme if I was in alter ego form when they're activating. But this doesn't say anything about that. It just says that when revealed, the villain schemes. So that means this villain is going to scheme. So she's going to scheme for 2. And they get a boost card anytime they activate, whether it's scheming or attacking. And once again, we just ignore, oh, this is a good one to get for the boost. We ignore the whole card, and it just adds that. So that means it's adding 2 plus the 2. So she is scheming for 4 onto the main scheme. So they have 5 to the 12 to winning. We have the forced response that after Pestilence attacks you, if she has at least 1 hit point, but she didn't attack me. All she did was scheme. So that means this part doesn't matter. But this part says, as a forced response, that after a villain activates, move the active counter to the next villain. Pestilence activated against me, so that means now Famine is now the active player. Good thing I went after War because they're pushing that along. After everyone's done all their encounter cards, the last part of the villain phase is to pass the first player marker to the next player. In this case, we're solo, so we just do it all over again. That's it. It's going to be a back and forth until we can knock out all 4 of the Horsemen and win. Or they pull off their main scheme and beat us or knock us out, which is not looking good for us right now. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play this card Firecracker here. It's a 2-cost event. I have this resource that has 2 resources on it, 2 different resources, which is going to be a good thing for this card because that pays for this. And it says, as a hero action attack, deal 4 damage to an enemy, and if I paid for this card using 2 different resource types, stun that enemy. Which, it was 2 different resource types, so we're going to do 4 damage and stun an enemy. So we're going to choose Famine to do 4 damage against. So do 4 damage. And then we're going to stun Famine. And what stun is, it gets this ability. It says the next time that character would attack, discard this instead. So it just cancels out an attack. So we're going to put this stun on there. And we'll put it over attack. Alright. But we also have a hero response here that says, attack that after I play an attack event, exhaust Jubilee's sunglasses here and choose an enemy. Deal 1 damage to that enemy for each different resource type used to pay for that event. So I paid 2 different resource types. So exhaust this to deal 2 damage to an enemy. So I'm going to do that 2 damage to War here. Next, I want to bring this card out. But it says here I can play only if my identity has the mutant trait. The only trait I have right now is X-Men. So with that, I'm going to switch forms to alter ego form where I do have the mutant trait. So now I can play this card. It costs 1. There's my 1 resource to bring X-Gene into play here. And what it does is I can exhaust X-Gene to generate a wild resource for an identity specific event. Oh, that's not going to do what I thought it was going to do. Scratch that. We're going to hold on to this and just do it next round. I was thinking I was going to be able to use that to bring this out, but this is not identity specific. So what it means is it's got to be an identity specific event. So it's got to be one that has my Jubilee stuff down here, and it has to be an event. So I was doubling up that one wrong all the way around. So instead, we're going to use that 1 resource to bring this out, Disguise. It says play under any player's control, max 1 per player. And then as an action, notice it doesn't say hero or alter ego action, I can thwart, exhaust Disguise, and my identity to remove 2 threat from a scheme. So I'll bring Disguise out. And I'm going to go ahead and activate that action. So it says exhaust Disguise and my identity. So I exhaust my identity to remove 2 threat from a scheme. So 2 threat from a scheme. Gotta learn to read my cards. I thought I was going to be able to do that. I also thought I was going to be able to, yeah, anyways. With that, I'm going to hold this in hand. I have no other actions I want to do. So we go to the end of my turn. Keeping this in hand. My hand size is now 6, so I have 1 card in hand, so I get to draw 5 new cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that I've drawn up, ready and unexhaust all my cards. Back to the villain phase. Accelerate the scheme, adding 1 threat per player. Next, Famine goes to activate. And I didn't think that through very well. I should have stunned and done the 4 damage to him. That way, well, didn't think it through. I'm in alter ego form. So Famine is going to scheme. That doesn't have anything to do with attack. Like I said, didn't think it through very well. So it's going to scheme for 2 plus 2. So adds 4 threat. So they add 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the 12. Not looking good here. Since Famine activated, War becomes the new active. We go to the encounter step. We deal ourselves an encounter card. And, oh my goodness, did we just lose right here? We may have, because it's going to advance the scheme, or the villain's going to scheme for 1. How much is here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, oh, 0. I was about to say, if it's a 3 or higher, nope, just adds 1, because it just schemed for 1. But that moves this over here to where death is now the active. And then we go back to the beginning of the villain phase, or hero phase. That did not go the way I wanted it to at all. I am rethinking this whole next turn. Sorry, just cleaning this up right here so I can see it a little bit clearer. 9 to the 12. Man, missing that stun really cost me a lot. I'm going to press my luck. I was going to use her to recover and get some hit points back. But, let's just hope. We're going to do this and remove 2 threat from a scheme with the disguise again. So we're removing 2 from the Horsemen main scheme. I was holding on to this, but I think we're going to go ahead and do this ability. But because we're going to need this wild resource. I mean, I was going to pay for it with this, even because it's just removed 3 threat, and I can remove 2 here, but we might need this after that just happened. So we brought this out. We brought the X gene out. We're going to switch to hero form. We're going to do grand finale here. Cost 3. There's 2. And this is an identity specific event, so use our X gene. And it's a wild, so we can just leave it as a wild because we had the other 2 different ones here. And it says here is a hero action, deal 2 damage to an enemy for each different resource type, so 3 different resource types, so 6 damage to an enemy. And then choose an enemy and deal 2 damage to it. We're going to choose all the same person, and it's going to be Death. So Death's going to take 8 damage, taking him to 1. And then we're going to, as a response, after I played an attack event, which I just did, choose an enemy and deal 1 damage to that enemy for each different resource type. So it's going to do, oh, that'd be 3 damage to someone. Actually, here's the only thing we're going to change, because I notice it says here, deal 2 damage to an enemy for each different resource type. There were 3 different resource types you used to pay for this card. Oh, deal 2 damage to an enemy. For each different resource type you use to pay for this card, choose an enemy and deal 2 damage to it. So it's like that other one. I could choose multiple targets for each of these. So one of those 2 damages, I'm not going to do to Death. I know. But I just realized I kind of misread the card a little bit, and I want to spread the damage around a little bit. So we're going to do the other 2 damage to Pestilence. So basically, it's not really like forcibly taking things back. All it is I dealt the 2 damage to Pestilence because it says deal 2 damage to an enemy. And then for each different resource type I use to pay for this card, choose an enemy and deal 2 damage to it. So I chose Pestilence first, and then Death, Death, Death. Now when I do this, I paid 3 different types of resources. So it's 3 damage, and that's enough to take Death to 0. So he can still attack me, but he's not going to get the extra damage, which is the main key thing I needed to make sure didn't happen. With that, I'm going to go to the end of my turn. I'm going to keep this card in hand, hopefully to clean up some threat next turn if we make it. So we're going to draw up to our hand size of 5, so we draw 4 new cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just like a Justice deck is designed to do, we should be able to clear up some threat if we can make it through the villain phase. Let's see if we can do that. Because that attack could be dangerous. We're definitely going to have to defend. Beginning of the villain phase. Adds a threat on here. Ugh. Back to 8 to the 12. I'm in hero form. So he's going to attack me for 2. And, alright, well, we'll see what this is. So this is the other symbol I was talking about. If that comes up, that means we have to look over here, and we do care, but it's only this, it's called a boost ability. We're going to look and see what it says it does. In this case, it says I am stunned. Remember, just like we stunned Famine that was useless? Well, he stuns me. So, I'm stunned, meaning my next attack, instead, I just don't attack. And then if I were already stunned, take 2 damage. All right, so I just take Oh. I meant to defend there, but I already revealed cards, so I didn't defend. So I'm going to have to take the 2 damage. I did mean to defend. I got too carried away with thinking, oh my god, I got to see if I get knocked out. Should have been paying attention. Ugh. So I got lucky there. Well, maybe. Because if something tells him to attack him. But anyways, let's hope I didn't mess that up. We'll see. Alright, I already revealed cards. I can't take things back. Alright, here we go. His force response doesn't happen because his force response, if he has more than one hit point or more, he doesn't. But the force response that he activated moves it to Pestilence. And we go to the encounter step. And what is this beauty? Oh. This is really, really bad. All right, so this is another side scheme, just like the one we saw that we started with, and these ones have been put into play. But this one is going to have 2 threat on it, and it's got hinder, so that means it's going to add 1 per player, so it's going to actually put 3 threat on here. So it's going to have 3 threat on it. And as long as it's out, we have to deal with an extra encounter card. And then also, the player who defeated this side scheme takes 2 damage. So not good, especially since I forgot to do that defend. So it gets the 3 threat put on there. And we're going to have to deal with 2 encounters next turn because I'm going to have to heal. So with that was all the encounter step. We go to the hero phase. Okay, we got a lot of stuff to clean up with, and I got to stop making mistakes. Here we go. Actually, I think I drew a good enough hand to clean up but my mess. Just would have been better if I would have remembered to defend. But here we go. I didn't remember to defend, so this is where we're at. All right. We're going to play Flash of Light. It costs 2 resources. It's an identity-specific event, so we're going to use X Gene, which gives us a wild resource, and this, which gives us that resource, and that pays for it. We get to remove 3 threat as a hero action. We're in hero form. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. If I paid for this card using 2 different resource types, I did confuse an enemy. So we're going to remove 3 threat and confuse an enemy. We're going to remove this 3 threat from the main scheme. Like I said, I'd like to do that one, but I'm only at 2 hit points, so it would knock me out. And confuse is, I get to confuse someone, which it says the next time that character would thwart or scheme, discard this card instead. So we're going to confuse Pestilence here, since we are definitely going in alter ego form to do some healing. And then we're going to play another Flash of Light using these 2 cards. So same exact resources, so same exact outcome. Remove 3 threats, so we clean this up. Oh, I really wish I knew which items, because oh no, I can't, because I'm in hero form, so I can't even do that one. So let's not even talk about that. The nice thing is, I noticed it. So it said it can't be done by heroes or allies. If I'm in alter ego form with this disguise, that's just an action, and I'm not in hero form. So that's my identity. It's not my hero. I'm not. So when I'm in alter ego form, I can use my disguise to do a shopping spree. It's just we've been having to clean up and take care of other things. But anyways, that was a sidetrack I just noticed, which I thought was pretty cool. And that's why this just wouldn't be all that good. This would be really good. This disguise would be really good for, like, I've been doing a lot of deck building with identities that stay in their alter ego form just for the fun of, I want to play Steve Rogers and try to do everything in alter ego form. Or like Hulk, Justice, which my friend makes fun of that I've had for a while. This would be really good because it lets you do that identity. It'd be terrible for Gambit was my first thought, but then I realized it exhausts your identity, which means Gambit already exhausts to do his ability, so it'd be terrible. But that's sidetrack anyways. Just my thoughts whenever I read that card initially. Let's go ahead and confuse someone. So Famine is confused and stunned. We're going to switch to alter ego form. I would have liked to have done an attack just to get rid of this, but we need the hit points. So we're going to exhaust Jubilation Lee here and recover 3 hit points. Oh, wrong direction. So we didn't do anything to progress knocking out the villains this turn, but maybe we kind of got them a little under control to do some stuff. But the double threat, our double encounter, that scares me. All right, with that, we're going to go to the end of our turn. We have no cards in hand. New hand size is 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh man, if we can get Wolverine out. That's a lot of resources though. All right, ready all of our stuff. Accelerate the scheme. We got it to 3 of 12. I like it. Oh, I do not like that. We go to the villain. I'm in alter ego form. So the villain is going to go and try to scheme, but it can't because it's confused. So instead, it just removes the confuse, which means it did not activate, which means this does not move. Pestilence is still the active villain. So I might just stay in alter ego form for a little bit here because, oh no, this one's still going to do some stuff. Because I was thinking, oh, but it still ain't going to activate or anything. Man, if we can just get this activation over with and get it over here, we'll have some free time. But, all right, let's go with the worry here. So we have to deal ourselves an encounters card, and this says deal another encounter card to the first player. And now we have to deal with both of these. So, all right, what does this say? This is an attachment attached to the villain with the fewest hit points without the aerial trait. So Death is our villain with the fewest hit points, but he has the aerial trait. None of these do, so it's going to be one of these two. So in that case, we get to choose. Attached villain gains the aerial trait and is considered to have at least 1 hit point. Boo. As a hero response, after you attack attached villain, resolve its forced response as if it just attacked you. Oh, I don't like either of those. So basically, it has to be one of these, so I'm either going to have to mill 10 when I attack Famine, or I'm going to have to get rid of an upgrade or support when I attack War. I'm going to attach it to War. Ugh, I don't like that because it's also given +1 scheme and +1 attack. Oh my god, we haven't even done this yet. I don't like it, but I figure 10 cards means, well, actually we're going to have to hit that again anyways. So actually, no. We'll put it on Famine. Because our deck's almost empty anyways, which means when this happens, it's gonna probably be a new deck anyway. So, yep, we're doing that. All right. Oh, gotta do the. I was already starting to look at my hand. We gotta do the other encounter. Oh, what's this one? Hunted. Obligation. Oh my goodness. It's that symbol again. Alter ego action. So that means it's an obligation. It means it has to go to me. And what it's saying is, as an alter ego action, I can discard a card from my hand to discard this card. Otherwise, I'm going to have to keep dealing with that because I'm being hunted. Oh my goodness. I guess it could have been worse. Do I have a card to discard right now? Anyways, well, I made it through the encounters, but now we have to get rid of that Welcome to Murder World and this on the same turn. So definitely not bringing Wolverine out this turn. All right, beginning of the hero phase. Well, it really kind of messed up my turn because I was hoping to pull some stuff off. Yeah, I get it. That's what they're supposed to do. So we're going to go ahead and take care of this as an alter ego action. I'm in alter ego form. Discard a card from my hand to discard this card. So we're discarding this from hand to get rid of that card. Sorry, that was a long edit. I don't remember if I was in the middle of talking about something or not. If I was, sorry. It was a long edit because I've been fighting back and forth about what I should do for this turn. Instead, we're just going to play some stuff out. Because I think, unfortunately, I don't have any way to get rid of Welcome to Murder World, which means we're going to have to deal with 2 encounters again. I kept rethinking maybe I should have taken that back and just kept that obligation. At least gets rid of the thing. But I think I'm just overthinking it. We're just going to go. We've already seen how this deck runs. Let's just do this. So, I'm going to switch to my hero form. I'm going to go ahead and activate to attack, and it doesn't matter who if I choose because I'm stunned, so that just removes the stun. And this is why I kept thinking it back and forth, because I have this that I want to play, but it's an attack and a thwart, so I would think if I played this, it doesn't matter whether I'm doing the damage or not. It's an attack thwart, so it would cancel it out, and I don't want to do that. So, here we go. So we're not stunned anymore. Let's attack away. So we're going to play Firecracker. We need 2. There's 1. And the X-Gene, because it is an identity-specific event. And remember, it's only to play this I had to be a mutant. So, here we go. Hero action, attack. Deal 4 damage to an enemy. If you paid for it using 2 different things, I did. Wild, and since wild can be anything, it didn't matter what this one showed. For payment, it can be anything. If you paid for this card using 2 different resource types, stun that enemy. So, do 4 damage, and then stun that enemy. So we're going to go ahead and do Pestilence here. Taking Pestilence down to 3. Oh. Yeah. I was actually rethinking that I might want to get rid of that, but I think I got something else in hand. Let's go. I'm just rethinking this. Let's just go. 3 and stun. And then as much as I want to play Wolverine, instead we're going to do this one. It's cost 3. And we have, and it's going to matter on this, it matters what resources we're spending. And remember, Wild says when you're paying, I know I keep hammering that point home, but that's just the way I read it. When paying, I can choose what I want this to be. I'm going to choose for it to be what I keep calling the mental resource, and I could be wrong on that, but it's the blue one. So that we have all 3 resources that it's showing on this card, and that's the 3. And we're multi-talented. It says hero action, attack, thwart. If you paid for this event using at least 1, and we had paid for it using each of those, so we get to do all 3 of those, which is going to be deal 2 damage to an enemy, remove 2 threat from a scheme, and heal 2 damage from my identity. So let's go ahead and do the heal 2 damage from my identity. Oh, once again, going backwards here. Oh, I forgot about this hero response, and that's fine, because I can trigger it with this. Which is actually better for me to trigger it with this. So, glad I did that. Alright, so, glad I missed that trigger, because, anyways, so now let's go do 2 damage to an enemy and remove 2 threat from a scheme. We're going to remove 2 threat from Welcome to Murder World. And we're going to do 2 damage to Famine. But remember, Famine has this hero response that after I attack attached villain, I can choose to resolve its forced response to get rid of this. I'm going to go ahead and do that, because the forced response from Famine is I have to discard the top 10 cards of my deck. So, we're going to do that to get rid of this. So we have to discard top 10 cards of my deck. I actually only have 3, and the way this works is when you have to reshuffle your deck, you have to deal yourself an encounter card. So we're going to have to deal ourselves an encounter card. But also, if it's done while drawing, you would reshuffle your deck. Well, we're going to have to reshuffle our deck. So anytime you reshuffle your deck is when you have to deal yourself the encounter card. When you're drawing, you reshuffle and then continue to draw. If it's a discard, like in this case, it just discards these 3, and that's it. So it discards those 3, it stops, and it's going to reshuffle all of this. Oh, almost didn't shuffle this in. I would assume since I finished pulling that off, it's done now. So, and let me go ahead and start shuffling that. And also, I guess while I'm shuffling, let's go ahead and trigger these other things. So we have this hero response that after I play an attack event, exhaust Jubilee sunglasses and choose an enemy. Deal 1 damage to that enemy for each different resource type used to pay for that event. I used 3 different resource types, so it's going to do 3 damage to an enemy. So we can knock out Famine or Pestilence or just really hurt War. I think we go for the knockout on someone. Even though it doesn't matter because they're not going to attack me anyways. I think we'll go ahead and knock out Famine. Just because out of those 3, I mean, this is the one I hate the most. I mean, really, 2 damage. Taking him down to 2, I can get 2 out. Yeah, smart play says get them as low as possible. So, let's just do 3 damage to War. And with the right draw, we could possibly just end this. Of course, we're no cards in hand to the end of my turn. And we're going to have to deal with 2 encounters because Welcome to Murder World's still out there. Alright. Well, this has been kind of a hot mess is what it is. But I mean, I'm feeling okay. Just 2 encounters. That's the thing I don't want to have to deal with. So we go to the end of my turn. I have no cards in hand. We draw up to our hand size of 5. 1, 2, no, 3, 4, okay, 5. I like one of them. Ready our cards. Alright. Top of the villain phase. Accelerate the scheme for 1. I am in hero form. So the villain's going to go to attack. It cannot. It is stunned. So instead, it just gets rid of the stun. I mean, that's what's making me feel confident. We got him pretty much stun locked. Here we go. Go to encounter phase. Deal ourselves an encounter card. Deal ourselves another encounter card. And then now we have to deal with them. So, gang up. When revealed, the villain and each minion engaged with you attacks you. Okay. So she's going to attack me. What is her thing? Makes my text box empty. I'm not going to defend. I'm just going to take it. So 1, 2, 3. So we take 3 damage. Ugh. I was feeling better. And now, since that forced response is, she has 1 or more hit points. So my text box is blank. We're just going to put this over it. My text box is blank. It means I still have my traits. I just don't have my ability, which I haven't been using anyway. So, all right, let's go back to the last encounter card. Oh, what is... Oh, actually, we forgot about another force response here, which is this one, which is after a villain activates, move the active counter to the next villain. All right. Now we go to Rough Riders. When revealed, resolve the forced response on the active villain as if it has at least 1 hit point and attacked you. So that means we just do the forced response here, which is after Famine attacks you, discard 10 cards from your deck. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then move the active counter to the next villain and resolve its force. Oh my goodness. Which his was the one I kept avoiding the whole game. But looks like it's going to be triggered anyways. Which is I have to get rid of one of my upgrades or supports. I've been using both of these. This one helped me, but I think we'll get rid of Disguise. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Not so bad. All right, we made it through the double encounters. So we go back to the beginning of my turn. All right, I might take it back. I just didn't really like this card. I mean, I think it's not bad. I like that you could choose any player, but actually that might have given me the game. Let me see. I may have one right here. Let me check. We're going to see. All right, let's see. Well, let's go ahead and bring that into play. So it's a 2-cost upgrade. Cost me 2 resources. It puts 3 charges on it. And what uses means is once it's got 3 charge counters on it. Once those charge counters are gone, this is discarded. And it says here's an action. I can exhaust cell phone, remove 1 charge counter from here, and choose a player. That player makes a basic attack or thwart with a character they control. That character gets +1 thwart and +1 attack for this use. So I'm putting 3 counters on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and activate that action to remove a counter. I'm choosing this character, so now it's +1 thwart, +1 attack, so it's a 2, 2, plus my +1 attack there is a 3, so a 3 attack. And going to have Jubilee attack, because that's what it says they do. And I'm going to have Jubilee attack Pestilence, which is enough to not KO Pestilence or defeat it, but enough to take her to 0. And then I'm going to play Firecracker here. There's my 1 resource. And my X-Gene says to do 4 damage to an enemy. And if you paid for this card using 2 different resource types, stun it. Don't really care. Because I'm going to do 4 damage to Famine. You can't overstun, but it's enough to take Famine to 0. And I paid 2 different resources, so I used the hero response from Jubilee Sunglasses to do 2 damage to War. And since they're all at 0 hit points, they're all knocked out. Whew. Alright. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I might have been playing that wrong, and that just seemed busted with the wild resource choices. But to be fair, on some of those, I mean, some of those cases it wouldn't have mattered because it said the wild resource could have been one of those. But in the case of that multi-talented, I guess, is where it made a difference. Well, actually, I still say it says when you're using a wild resource to pay for the cost, it can be used as any resource. I mean, and I even looked up frequently asked questions just to see if there was something that changed on that. Hoping something already came out about it. If I played that wrong, well, I just went by the rule book. But I was looking forward to this character. I was expecting to do more confusions, but just the way they did that, I know people are... Jubilee is one of my favorite characters, so I might just be looking at it different. I did enjoy that, and I know I went off of that thought, and it's just because I just realized it could just be, I do love playing the Jubilee character. And I thought that was cool. I do like some of the uses, and I know we don't do this in the videos, but I'll talk about them. This ended up being better than I thought. I did notice it does say that player makes a basic attack or thwart, so you choose someone. So you could choose someone else, and I do like that ability of it. And if you think about it, that's a 2 for 3. And it can be 3, of thwart or, used thwart and attack and all that stuff. So this ain't quite as bad as I was thinking initially. I mean, I didn't think it was bad. It just wasn't something I was looking at. But yeah, it was better than I thought. At first, reading these, and I'm sure it's going to be the same with the event one, or with the thwart one. Reading these, this is just especially with hers, and getting to pay different resource costs. That's just good. I mean, I know some people online were going, oh, it's only +1 attack. I don't think you care if it's +1 attack. The boons you're getting from this is just crazy. And especially if you go like an aggression build or something, that can get stupid because those are kind of expensive. I like the X-Gene. I don't know if I like it with 3 in the deck. I mean, I guess so you can guarantee you get it out early, especially in your opening hand. But it's always in all my mutant decks, so Anyone that's a mutant, why wouldn't you have it in there? A 1 that now gives you a permanent. Now, granted, only to your identity-specific events, but that's all your attacks and thwarts from your deck, most likely. So those are good. Firecracker, I mean, 4 damage and a stun. And I mean, odds are it's going to be 2 different resource types, no matter what. So just good. That's just good. If your hero, I guess I could bring these up to the camera, huh? After your hero thwarts and deal 4 damage to an enemy, 7 damage if it removes the last one. I really don't like situational stuff like that. I'm not going to say that was bad. Sorry, my phone did go off there. I'm not going to say that was bad, but I just don't like situational. So, yeah, like in this case, I could have thwarted for 1, removed the last of it from Murder World. And that would have been cool because I could have done 7 damage. And that's a lot. But you're also paying 3 for just 4 damage. And you have to thwart. So I guess I could see it. Yeah, actually, with a Justice deck, I can kind of see it. Because a lot of times your thwart's going to be decent. So I might consider this for my Psylocke deck, actually. Because I went Psylocke Justice. So there, I could thwart for 3 and do 4 damage. Possibly 7. Yeah, this can be good. Situational, I try to get out of situational. 3 steps ahead. I mean, I like it. You're going to do at least 2. So you're paying 3 for 4. And initially when I read this, I was thinking it had to be different. But it doesn't say different schemes on there. So you could choose the same scheme. So 3 for 4. 3 for 6 possibly. So, yeah, it's good. I like it. Disguise. I mean, I can see some cool stuff with it so that you can go with those cool different builds like I was going with the build of, oh, let me stay in alter ego form and do some stuff. So, I mean, I can see it. I just don't like that it exhausts your identity also. And I mean, I guess that makes it too strong if it didn't do that. But I mean, for some of your identities like Cap, who just has a uniform, or I should say just, what's the word I'm looking for? I was looking for a particular word. I'll just say an always active ability. I just don't know why the word escapes me right now. But yeah, it's just always on, like where he makes all of your allies cheaper. Then you don't care if you exhaust him. And you just get to stay in the form also. It's just, usually you stay in that form so you can do other alter ego stuff, like recover or do other things. And I don't let you do that. That's something I don't like. We didn't get to really see this in effect, but I mean, I like these player side schemes, especially for like a Cable. Maybe weird that Cable's in the... actually, no, Cable couldn't play this. Oh, yeah, he could. He could. He just wouldn't be able to take advantage of that. But Cable and Generation X. And actually, I can see that doing this for a whole bunch of other just little side teams and whatnot to do special stuff. So, but it's really good for her because of her events we just talked about. We already talked about Cell Phone, Disguise, X-Gene. I mean, these are always good, especially in this deck. If you can use them for the multiple things, I'm doing that right. Multi-talented can just be good in any deck. I mean, I like it. Yes, it is a little costly for 3. Especially if you end up using all the same resources. You're most likely not. You're usually going to use at least 2 different resources. But I mean, it's very toolbox. And I like the toolbox stuff from it. And actually, I want to look and see my Gamora deck. This I might like in my Gamora deck because it does count as an attack and a thwart. So it does the same thing as the... man, my brain just ain't working right now. Probably why I made so many mistakes in this. But it works the same as the other one that does 2 thwart and 2 attack. But in this case, if I happen to have that other extra resource, I can heal myself a little bit. So I like that. I'm definitely going to be looking at this for my Gamora deck. Which is aggression and being able to... The way Gamora can work, if you haven't looked at her, is she can play 6 attack events that are not of the aspect she chose. So Grand Finale just really good, but it makes sense why they only gave you 1. I mean, deal 2 damage to an enemy, and that's even more. Reading that makes me think I'm doing that right, because I know characters like well, I guess it could be done without the wild resource, but still, Characters like, oh, my brain just, Ant-Man and stuff, and Hulk and Vision and stuff could do 7 and 8 damage. This is an 8 damage. I mean, with Gambit, he has a 9 damage, right? So, I mean, that's just, yeah. But there's only one of it for a reason. 3 steps ahead. I think I already talked about it, but if I didn't, just good all around because remove 2 threat. Yeah, we talked about it already. I wanted to see her in action. This might go into my... Oh, it can't because it's an aggression, storm aggression. I wish it could. I want to try out Husk. I like the Husk card. I like the ability of being able to heal her. I mean, I almost want to move her into a deck that has a lot more of that resource to heal her. But I wanted to try her out. But yeah, I like Husk. Yeah, at least they gave her these. Given 2 on that. Really good. Firecracker we talked about. I wanted to play Wolverine. We got him. Just, it was better situational wise to be able to do the thing I needed to do to heal, even though I didn't need the heal. But I wouldn't have been able to bring out Wolverine anyway, so might as well just got the heal while I was at it. Let's see. We wanted to see. Yeah, so it just does the same thing, but with, I mean, yeah, they were saying the same thing. Oh, only +1 thwart. It doesn't matter. Then you can just pull off any thwart event and get to do extra thwarting. Yeah, no. That's good. That's just really good. Which, usually getting the character stuff out. Now, people were saying this one was just so amazing online. Choose X enemies, where X is the number of different resource types used to pay for this event. Oh, stun and confuse. Okay, I missed the stun and confuse. Okay, yeah, that's really good. I thought it just confused only when I initially read it, so I was like, oh. That's just overcost. But stun and confuse, and you can choose multiple targets. No, yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to do it. I like this card. Well, let's go into my Storm. Anytime I see an X-Men, I just think about my Storm X-Men deck. Right now, the only thing that's not X-Men in it, I need to just play it on camera one day. Maybe I will. Maybe that'll give me some more stuff, because I just got tired of just doing nothing but unboxings. I wanted to do more playthroughs on here. And I know I'm just gabbing right now. But this is only for the people who wanted to hear this. But it's a Storm Aggression, and it's all X-Men except for, I wanted to, since it was all about lightning, I threw anything Thor related in there. So I have Thor, Lady Thor, and regular Thor. I have Angela in there since Thor's sister, and I have Throg, and I can't remember what else is in there. Other than that, it's all X-Men characters. So when you use a basic power, exhaust sink, you get +1 to that power. Yeah, this would be good in my Storm deck. And while it's cool to be in this deck, I just don't feel like it's necessarily needed in this deck. Just to give her that +1. So this will definitely be going straight to my Storm deck, because I do feel like Storm needs that boost. Yeah, be in here because Wolverine's her thing. If not, it's a wild resource. So, which makes me think even more. Yeah, either way, I can keep going back on it. I'm pretty sure I'm reading that right. Chamber, people were downplaying. I thought he sounded good when I first read him. So let me see. 4 costs for 3. 2 and 2. And I mean, yeah, they got to be confused, but I was able to throw some confusions down. And usually if you're playing Justice, you're going to be throwing confusions around. Now, them staying confused, yeah, especially in multiplayer. So I can see this better in solo than multiplayer. You're going to confuse someone, but most likely someone's going to go out of... Especially if you're playing a character that doesn't stay in alter ego form. That's the reason I don't think I like it with this one, because it feels like you have to go in alter ego. Well, I guess you don't. Well, if you're playing Wolverine, yeah, you want to. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. NX Gene, all right. Enough gabbing. We made it through all the cards. The only one we didn't go through was Shopping Spree. And I mean, I'd want to read some other items. I'm not a big keen on it. I mean, I guess so you can go get an item if you have that disguise or you have something else. But I'd want to see what other items, and I have not looked at other items, but I'm sure that's going to be guns, or I could think of some grenades, maybe something to throw some confusions and stuns. So yeah, there's that Justice gun. But anyways, yeah, I'm not going to prolong this anymore. I just wanted to add that extra. I never talk about the extra cards or go through the cards when I'm doing the unboxing, because I realize people are watching that because they just want to see the unboxing. Anybody watching this probably was sticking around to hear this stuff or hear how it played, or if any of that stuff played or made a play difference. So I guess I can go through the other stuff in her deck. They have the Serve and Protect for your protection. Alliance, I did not talk about in the unboxing. Alliance means, if you haven't seen it, it means you and other players can pay for this. So it says, when any amount of threat would be placed on the main scheme, exhaust an X-Force character and an X-Men character, which makes it where if you have X-Force in her deck, then you can exhaust them. But if you're playing with someone who has X-Force, or they're playing an X-Force character, they can pay for that. And then prevent that threat and give each of those characters a tough status card. So, I mean, that could be good. But, like I said, that goes back to that situational problem. Unless you're going to make this an X-Force deck, and then she's the X-Men you could tap. Well, actually, I think there's some good protection X-Force characters, so maybe. Mutant Mayhem, I did like this when I read it. It is Alliance also. Choose an X-Force ally and an X-Men ally, and return them to their owner's hands. Choose players... play those allies, ignoring the resource cost. So one thing I didn't bring up that I thought of during there, I didn't say it, and I realized during the editing, was it's kind of nice because you can hit up an ally and allies that are already about to go out because their hit points are down. So this lets you hit them and then bring them back. So I can see this really good in... Cyclops leadership, maybe. So, anyways, enough gabbing. Did we get to see any of Arcade stuff? Oh, yeah. I was about to say, did we see any of Arcade stuff? We definitely saw Arcade stuff. That was the thing that, double. Yeah. And it was just so bad because that came down right when I chose not to defend or forgot to defend. So I had to take the damage, and it was just enough damage to knock me out. Whereas if I would have defended, what did I end up doing on that turn? I don't remember. I'll see on the edit. But if I would have defended, I could have just taken the 2 damage, got rid of that. Yeah, that was just bad play on my part. Like I said, I'll take things back on camera, but and when I play. But once cards are flipped or dice are rolled, you can't take things back. You know, and like there were a few things, I know I did a few things in that video where it was like, oh, well, instead I would have attacked here, but there weren't no cards revealed and nothing, game state hadn't changed, you know, when I changed that, but that's basically what I look at. Anyways, I think this video is long enough. Luckily we didn't hit Shadows of the Past, because I'm sure Nanny would have been, and I know some people were asking online, they were trying to figure out, and if you didn't watch the unboxing, Nanny was the nemesis for Jubilee. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say. I do feel like the 4 Horsemen are a little easy, but then again, in this one, I was put in a bad state pretty early. I mean, getting knocked pretty low, and then choosing to that stun at the wrong. Yeah, I just made a lot of mistakes, and those almost cost you, so you got to be careful. Read your cards, pay attention to your what you're doing. Anyways, hope y'all enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments if y'all feel like I was doing that wrong, but that's just the way I read it with the pay. It said pay, so I get it. It says if you use those types, but it said, if it didn't say on there, where's that card? Because actually, I would almost argue it the other way, but then they go and say if you paid for it. It's like, oh my goodness, and of course I can't find one right now. Yeah, it says, for each different resource type you used. If it just said that, I would agree. Wild was used. It didn't matter. Even if I chose Wild to be that when the payment happened, it didn't matter. What did I use? But it says, resource type you used to pay for this card. And when you pay with a Wild resource, you can choose. But then the argument could also be used that it only costs 3. So you would never be able to pay for all 4 of these. I was trying to think if there was a situation. Actually, well, So I would say no. It costs 3. So if you go to overpay, you would never be able to do it. But I can actually think of a situation where the overpaying would have all 4. Granted, it's only with this deck. But yeah, if I paid with these, it is a Justice card. So that's double wild and those 2, and I could choose the other one to be mental, so I would be able to choose 4 and get rid of 8 threats. So I mean, now granted that's situational to get rid of 8, but in this case, no. I couldn't even do that. It'd still be only at 6 because I didn't use 4 to pay for this card. So yeah, I still see it that way either way. Because it's only when I go to pay, so you can't choose all 4. Yeah. Oh well, let me know in the comments you think if I'm wrong on that. But everything I looked up online, and trust me, I was looking up everything. I was trying to use any cards that already do stuff like that, kinda to a degree, to use as an example, finding out how they work, how they are worded, and look through the frequently asked questions, and that's just the way I see it. Because it's not saying printed. If it said printed, I would agree. It would only trigger with that. But anyways, enough jibber jabber. Thank you for watching and have a great day.